Welcome back, everyone. I am Patsy Springer on the Black Swan Yoga podcast. I am here with my dear and close friend, Madeline Chen, who I am honored and inspired by every day to be working with. And today we are going to dive into our second agreement from Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements. And just a little recap, these are 4 agreements that at Black Swan Yoga, us managers and teacher trainers, we truly live by. We each probably read this book 2 or 3 times a year. We bring it into our teacher training. And I'm excited to talk about not taking anything personal today, the second agreement of 4.
Exciting. Our first podcast together.
Yay!
I'm so excited to talk with you. Yeah, we have long conversations about the 4 agreements and the like in teacher training in person. So it's nice to finally do it on camera, recording it for our podcast, which is awesome. Where should we start? We should get into some good stuff today.
I know.
Not taking things personally. Oh my gosh, it's a challenging one. Sometimes it's my most challenging agreement to live by. Over time, it definitely has become easier. But taking things personally, I think, is in our nature because we're all so self-centered. We're like the star of our own shows, and the way we see the world and the way we are experiencing things is in direct relation to us. So all of us are the center of the universe in the way we see the world, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's what Don Miguel says too, is that we each have our own story. And so we feel like it's so easy to take things personal because when someone says something that affects us, we feel like it really does affect us and bring it into our personal lives, into our personal place of our hearts. When in reality, what he says is that they have their own story and whatever they're doing has nothing to do with you. You know, they feel like that they are the center of their world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some real examples. It's such a challenging topic. How can we, should we think of an example of some way that either one of us have taken things personally or a friend of a friend type of scenario where it's maybe someone else who's had the situation?
Yeah.
Have anything come to mind?
Yeah. I think right away as a yoga teacher, I'm in my logical mind, I know that I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I know that it's just the way it is. And in my mind, that's okay. I know that they have their own thing going on. And if a student comes to my class and it's just not for them, that's okay. There's so many other yoga teachers out there. Please keep doing yoga. Go to someone else. But sometimes, I might actually bring that into my heart space of this is totally me. It's my fault that they're not coming back. It's, they left class early. They don't like me. I'd start making up stories, and that goes into another agreement. Don't make assumptions. But I start to really bring it into my own, it starts in my heart, like this feeling of, wow, like whatever just happened, it hurts. And then it goes into my mind of, I need to change something about me. Like this is sticking with me. So for me, it's like teaching yoga. That's the first thing that comes up is with my career is knowing that not to take it personal.
For sure. So how do you handle it when a student maybe leaves or doesn't come back or
I
even says, I don't like your class?
Right. I know, really. I have to remind myself of the people that do, or, like maybe like look around the room. If they leave in the middle of the class, look around the room. Okay. Like focus on the people that are with me right now. Be present. Wish whoever just left some well wishes, some, good energy, good juju, and then come back to the people, like try not to spend my energy and time in that place of feeling sorry for myself. And if it's something with, they don't like my class, like they actually say that, still wish them well with holding myself accountable for how I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's big to take responsibility for your own emotions.
Yeah, super challenging.
Oh my God, so much. It's much easier said than done.
Definitely. I feel like this agreement is a huge request or burden or challenge to experience or, summit. I was just climbing a mountain this weekend, so I'm thinking climbing this giant mountain. I feel like this for agreement is really asking us to be completely selfless, because if we think the world revolves around us and we are taking things personally all the time, then we're being selfish. And in my mind, I like to flip that upside down and think not taking things personally allows me to be of service to other people, especially in this challenging example you're talking about with teaching yoga. You're teaching yoga to help other people. And when someone doesn't like your class, who I've had this experience a million times, okay, maybe not a million, all right, but definitely a good handful. Someone doesn't like your class or what you're offering, doesn't vibe with, doesn't connect for whatever reason. When you start taking it personally, self-criticizing yourself, eliminating the yamas and niyamas, like forgetting nonviolence to yourself, forgetting the truth, forgetting all these other practices in our yoga practice, it just kind of becomes this like spiral or tornado effect of selfishness, I think. So that's one of the ways that I've really utilized this, practicing this agreement, don't take things personally, is by realizing what I want to do in this world is be of service to others. I want to help people. I want to be of service to my family members, my friends, my coworkers, my yoga students. And if I take things personally all the time, then I'm just obsessing about myself. What do you think about that?
I love that. Like you're shifting your perspective into this place of, well, if I'm starting to spiral, I need to give back and not spend all this focus on myself. Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful way and I think that's a great way also to get ourselves out of even places like depression. Whenever we're feeling blue, whenever we're feeling sad, how can I help someone else? Because it really does boost your endorphins. It gives you a gift.
Yeah. That reminds me of something he writes in the book. He has this one paragraph that says, first two parts. First of all, our words are so important. I feel like we take them for granted because we all learn language as early as possible, and it's our currency. It's what we exchange, and that's how we all understand others, understand ourselves, understand the world. Reading a book is a language, and words are so powerful. But at the same time, they can be so misconstrued at times. It's we text. We email, and then it's so easy to take things personally and, misunderstand or think things are about us when really it's someone else's own internal dialogue and their own reality of what words mean to them, even though we have maybe the same word like love. The first thing you think of when I say that word, what I think of or what anyone thinks of is probably different in any given day or time. Right. So even when it comes down to having a communication, especially when it's a negative one or like a heated conversation or a challenging conversation, things can be taken personally, I think, really easily.
Big time. Well, I like that you brought up our means of communication through texting and email and social media, because we don't know the tone. Now we have emojis to show the tone.
That's all I communicate on.
Right.
Just send emojis for a response. That's all you need. It's so much more descriptive. That little yellow face.
Right. The best is when Siri reads it, like smiley face, thumbs up, yellow.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
But I think it's just so important to have a personal connection with people, but keeping in mind that personal connection isn't something that like you're attached to, not taking things personal of, this isn't gonna, that like permanency of this is the way it is and it always will be that way. That attachment of having it taken personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of the hard parts for people to understand about this agreement specifically is if you can't take something personally, then how can you have any personal relationships? How can you be in love? How can you have a family? How can you know and trust that you have a safety net or a relationship with anyone, be it coworker, your banker?
I know, right?
It's a challenging one. So
definitely.
What do you think?
For me,
it's so hard.
It is.
It's always so hard to think about that.
We are people, and this is a hard agreement. And all the studies I've done with this agreement, a lot of my students and even some of my peers are like, this is the agreement I kind of skip over. This is a hard one because I want to take things personal. And for me personally, it comes down to being in the moment, taking it moment for moment and letting that also those moments flee by without, like, yes, I am in love in this moment and I want to feel that and hold on to that. But I don't know, like if you grasp something so strong, it just slips through your fingers versus like having an open palm and seeing what comes and goes.
Definitely. Being present.
Being present.
Not being scared.
Right.
Being brave enough to be in the moment and accept this is really good right now. Things may change. Everything's going to be okay no matter what.
Yeah. Or this is, not so great right now and things will change and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Like one of the examples that a peer of mine gave me about this particular agreement is, well, what about, she said, what about the job interview where you know that you were well qualified for it? And she said, I know that since I'm a female minority, that's why I didn't get the job. She said, I take that very personal. And my response to this, I had to think about it for a little bit, but my response is, if that is the reason, then that's probably not a job that you want to be at anyways. And so, going back to being in the present moment and just moving on, like without spending like a second thought on like, that's bullshit. I'm so upset about this. Like, you don't have energy for that. You don't have time for that. You're looking for a job.
Absolutely.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, definitely. And trusting the universe to guide you wherever you're going,
right.
where you're meant to be. Definitely. So back to the book of what he was talking about of your word being so powerful, and our words are everything. It's the manifestation of your consciousness, your mind, how you speak, how you communicate, the things that come out of your mouth and into other people's ears. That's truly such a big deal. And I think since we have this vast, expansive, beautiful language, we don't really think about it too often. Like it's really infrequent that we look down at our feet and say, thank you for walking me here. Or even just, we have so many things that we take for granted, I think. But more so than just being appreciative and thankful that we have this language is being very mindful about the words we choose and how we communicate to others is so, so important. And really, I think one of the ways where we can minimize our natural tendency to take things personally, having conversations in person or on the phone or hearing people's tone of voice is such an important factor in everything. But on top of that, the way that you see the world, as an example, if you take something personally and think, this employer is out to get me for XYZ reasons, or this friend of mine said something hurtful because they wanted to hurt me, or whatever, situation you're in where you're taking something personally. If you can reflect on the fact that even though we have a language where a word has a definition, it's not math. It's not a black and white situation where love means the same thing for everyone at every moment in time. People say things and they mean something, and sometimes the meaning is not received, or wires get crossed.
That goes back to the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra, of having that filtration of how we do perceive things. And I love that you keep bringing up language, because it is, the first agreement is being impeccable with your word. And they really do tie in together so well. If we can communicate and listen, speak and use our language, and then also use our listening skills, our filtration skills, our perception, seeing how we're receiving this, I think it's easier to not take things as personal.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's powerful stuff.
It is. It's really powerful. And it's really in-depth stuff. I encourage our listeners, if you're noticing that, if you're like me and you're very sensitive, like I, might be looked at the wrong way and I'm like, oh my God, they hate me. And I'm like, you know what I mean?
You're human.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. If you're feeling that, I really encourage you to journal about it and journal, how can I, what Maddie was saying, how can I shift this perspective? How can I give more of an offering? Well, they looked at me cross-eyed. Maybe in that moment, take a second. I'm going to give them back a smile. give something back to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is so good. Because when he's talking about in the book about your word, he says, how you speak to others, they will speak back to you the same way. So if I say, I love you, you'll say, I love you. If I say, I don't like this about you, or I don't like that, then people are going to have the same type of judgment towards you. And that's this book is such a short read. The Four Agreements is such a short read. And it is actually really repetitive. He really drills home these four agreements.
Big time.
Yeah, a lot. But I think, that's important because learning comes through repetition. But in the book, he talks about how important it is to be conscious of the way you speak to others, because that's what you're going to get back. It's kind of like that the golden rule. How do you want to be treated? That's the way you treat other people. It's kind of the same message here. But with the languaging and the way we put out energy, even if it's not in communication, like you just shared the smile, like if someone had a grumpy face on, giving is always going to fill you up. Giving is one of the best ways to receive back what you want. So if you're feeling like people are out to get you, or you're unhappy, or the world is a dark place, and you want it to be light, you want to be happy, you want to be in good cahoots with others, you have to give that. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned, thankfully, through teaching yoga. Us being able to teach yoga, it's been such a huge gift to be able to realize giving is really one of the most magical things. I think as humans, we have this idea that there's a finite amount of love, there's a finite that I can give, I only have so much energy or time or what have you. But we just have to ignore all of that and just give as much as possible.
Yes. I have noticed a shift in my own life when I went from this place of scarcity, such as, there's only so many yoga classes that I can teach, that I want those classes, to this place of, there is so much time for me to teach yoga, and there's so many people to teach yoga too. And for other teachers to teach yoga too, like, different mentalities of whatever profession you have, wherever you're finding in your life scarcity, look at it from the other end. It's the glass is half full, the glass is half empty. Look at it from the other end to see how that will play a shift in your life. Because I will promise you that it will. When you go from fear and scarcity to abundance, it's huge.
Absolutely. Just like you sharing that example of someone looking at you in a negative way, just give them back a smile.
Yes.
And it not only changes their day and makes them feel seen. When people have a negative face on, it's probably because they're stressed or worried or concentrating or having a really hard day. And if you go out on a limb to share your heart through a smile, that not only helps and affects them, but it helps all the people that they're going to see and speak to and interact with. Maybe they share a smile to the next person on the street. It has a domino effect.
It's huge.
And it's also like you were talking about a little while ago, yesterday or something, about how to practice this in reality. You kind of have to have this shield of strength. And it's not necessarily this shield where you cut yourself off from other people's energy, but it is this balance between, I know who I am and how I feel, and I know that I'm going to share my heart and my smile and uplift people. And sometimes it won't be received, and really let go of that fear of, well, what if I smile at someone and they like frown at me back or ignore me or curse me out or something horrible like that? What if they do? Like the whole point of this, don't take things personally, is to build such a strong well of abundance and love within your own heart and soul that the negativity of others won't bring you down. That when someone says a judgmental thing to you, is judgmental to you, hurtful, you hear gossip about yourself from another friend, or a family member is like, whatever the situation is, if you are really in your lane of, I'm doing my best, I'm being impeccable with my word, I'm treating my body and my mind well, I'm treating other people well around me, you don't really have anywhere else to go. It's like,
right. Your focus.
Life is good.
Your life is good. There's two things I think of with you saying that. And one is, I love the analogy of the race horses that have blinders. They're not worried and that's how they win the races.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
can't look
totally.
over at anyone else, and they're not worried about how they're looking or what the other horse is doing, but really, like as you said, staying in your own lane.
Yeah.
Really focus on yourself with that. If someone, something, it's, two ways with this. If something is very hurtful, an insult that harms your ego. All right, well, I'm focused on my own lane, so it really doesn't get into me. And if someone says something, a compliment that actually boosts your ego, do the same thing. Don't take it too personally because you're focused on your own lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I was thinking about as you're talking about this is I like to do a meditation if I know that my energy is going to be all over the place today. Let's say like today I have like 4 meetings and then doing teacher training, meeting with someone in between. So it's like I need to make sure that I stay replenished. I feel like we each have our own well of energy. And if we just keep giving and giving without replenishing it, we're going to get, worn down and overwhelmed. And so I like to do a meditation where I have a golden light around me. And I think Christine and I have talked about this in a previous
Awesome.
episode. Yeah, where it's just this bubble of if whatever I'm feeling right now, it can't penetrate this golden light. And it helps to, and I even will do this like in the morning before I go out for a crazy day, just reminding myself that I have infinite amount of light. Like it can't be taken from me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that and maybe
Mhm.
more practical of what do you do when someone is actually trying to take you down?
Yeah.
Like if they repeatedly are judgmental to you or make comments to you that, you've gotten clarification. Did you mean that? What do you mean by
Mhm.
that? People that are judgmental or hurtful or are trying to, take you down on whatever scale
Right.
that is. How do you handle that when you have an interaction with
Mhm.
someone that is not there to help
Right.
boost your light, but dim your light?
Yeah. The first thing is I see if I can get myself out of that situation. Like I don't like to say that people are good or bad or like label them with that because we're all just walking this path, and I try to remember that we are all doing our best. And if the best that they have is to judge, then that's what they have today or whatever. But I would say if you're around people who are being toxic for you and really bringing you down, how can you remove yourself from the situation? And if it's possible, then do it. Sometimes it's hard with friends to say, look, this isn't working out. I really can't be around you right now with your negativity. This is actually harming my own life. This is harming my emotional state. And then there's situations where we can't take ourselves out of them, right? Like, let's say it's at work or just someone that you have to be around for whatever reason is going on, maybe an in law or something in that realm. I would keep in mind that they are doing their best. And if you can be the positivity in their life, I think that we remind each other of that, as friends and as colleagues to, let's go back to the 4 agreements. Are we being impeccable with our word? Okay, let's look at this. Are we making assumptions? And I feel like having friends and people around me that inspire me to do better it's just next level. It's just like, okay, next step, next step. And we keep going together on this journey.
We're scaling that mountain.
I love that.
Definitely. Oh, that's
Yes.
beautiful. Yeah, definitely give. I mean, practicing the 4 agreements and yoga makes you such a strong
Mhm.
person. It allows you to have light for other people that are in
Mhm.
darkness, and really, even if you aren't a teacher, even if you're just a practitioner or like improving your own self just by being, you don't even have to always go out of your way to compliment someone
Mhm.
or even smile, but just by having more of a self-love and dedication to
Yes.
working on yourself, you're going to affect the other people in the world and uplift them, definitely.
Mhm. I like that you just brought back to the practice too, because that's a really good way to kind of simplify the 4 agreements, especially don't take it personal. When you are on your mat in a public class and there's someone next to you that is totally not following the what the teacher is asking of the class and doing their own thing, and maybe maybe you feel like you're making the assumption that they're trying to show off, or that it's because you aren't doing what they're doing. It's so easy because we're that close in proximity to take that personal, and so it's a good practice that bringing it all back to the mat is such a mirror for your own life. So, okay, how am I responding to this? How am I reacting to this? What's my internal dialogue? Wow, I was just like saying all sorts of shit in my mind. Like, take a breath.
Absolutely.
Don't take it personal.
Absolutely.
And move along.
Absolutely. And I think of another practical one too. I often hear students say that when a teacher comes over to help them with their alignment, they feel picked on. And that's the whole role of the teacher, to uplift people, to always be growing and doing better. And I think it's just human nature for people to feel fearful of judgment and fearful of, and like it's a natural response of thinking, am I doing something wrong? Is it me? I'm taking something personally. So I think if you can, in your practice, really try to eliminate those thoughts of the teacher's making me stay in this pose I hate, or the teacher's coming over to me to tell me I'm bad at yoga or change my alignment. Right. And really, most of the time, hopefully, the yoga teacher practices these things and is a good-hearted person, which most are. They're just trying to help and uplift. Because I think, back to you, I asked you, what do you do when you have a challenging situation where somebody is not good for you or negative, and how do you handle that? I think it's also such a complex situation to decide and decipher the fine line of when we need to hear negative feedback or we need to hear quote unquote judgment to grow, versus someone who's truly trying to just be negative for no good reason and nothing will come good out of it. But the same thing kind of applies to teaching or in the classroom. If a teacher comes over you to help you with your alignment, they're probably trying to help you prevent an injury or help you to get even stronger or more flexible or reach your goals in your yoga practice. So I think the same thing applies, where we have to allow ourselves to live in this place of fearlessness, and we can't be in a place of scarcity. We have to know, like, even if I am judged by others, or even if someone says a mean comment to me, that my well of love in my heart is so full that it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. And then I can give them a glass of water from my full well. You can have some of my light, So anyways.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think a lot of us tend to want to get defensive when someone is actually trying to help us with their feedback. And I will shift my perspective. Instead of, when I find myself getting defensive of, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, or, whatever excuse I want to say to them, I try to say to myself, how lucky am I that they feel comfortable to give me this feedback? And then it's up to me if I take it or not, and how I grow from it, and how we might grow in our relationship from being able to help each other.
Absolutely. My mom always says, I'm like, Mom, can you not try to tell me how to live my life? I'm a grown woman.
Oh, but she's so great.
Oh, yes, she is. But she always says, if I was a parent who didn't care, I wouldn't be telling you this, that, or the other. Yes. We're working on a fine balance, but but it's the same thing. Like, if someone cares about your growth, whether that's in the workplace, a friendship, a family member, it's hard to give people feedback, even if it's in a relationship or at work. And if someone truly cares about you and your growth and they want you to stick around with the relationship, be it at work or personal, they're going to say, like, hey, we need to change this. Hey, we need to work on our communication. Or I noticed that you self-sabotage in this way. Can I help you? Can I be supportive of you? So I know you and Christine talked about nonviolent communication in the last episode on the first agreement, and bringing that into this space of not taking things personally is really important. Clear communication that is from the heart is really everything.
It's huge, because we can tell each other, what we're feeling or what's going on, but it doesn't have to be in a aggressive manner, and it doesn't have to be hurtful. And going back to just being impeccable with your word. And from there, how do I take this without being defensive, without taking it personally? How do I grow from this communication?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's everything, because it really does also trickle, you touched on this earlier, but it trickles into so many other areas that you won't even see possibly. I'm going to give just a quick example of my sister and I communicate very differently. And it was when she married her now husband, before they got married, he would witness the way that we would communicate, and we would get upset with each other. He would then go to each of us separately and talk about what we actually were trying to say to each other. And with him now, it's like her and I are able to communicate a lot better, but it just took like him stepping in and like, it sounds like you guys are both trying to get to the same place, but you're taking it personal.
Absolutely. I've had many situations like that with Kevin and Kate. Oh my God. Wow. Well, thank God for people that are strong enough to say, and care enough to give you the time of day to say, okay, Patsy, this is what you got going on. Katie, this is what you got going on. We're all in the same place.
Yeah.
And helped uniting. Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
And that patience, that courage and patience that person has to step in between and
absolutely.
Because otherwise it could just be turmoil of just like chaos of not really communicating and just emotion and taking things personal.
Yep, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So let's go back to the question about the relationships. Like, how can you have a relationship, be it a romantic relationship, a best friend, or a work relationship, where if we're all living in this perfect world where no one's taking anything personally, how can love exist? Or how can you be in a relationship with someone else if our actions, shouldn't be taken personally? Oh, that's a challenging one.
Such a hard one.
5 hours later. Get ready, you guys. Strap in. We're going to be here for a while.
I know. What is the meaning of life? No, that's a serious one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Personally, I think I definitely try to practice this, and it's an interesting balance between being really full on self-love and self-confidence, but also giving it without expecting to receive, just practicing this release and let go, and in the same light, practicing trust. For me, it is all about giving, and even though we practice giving without expecting to receive, the secret is more often than not, you will receive. And if you extend an olive branch during a fight, or if you go out on a limb and communicate with more clarity how much you appreciate someone, or how much you love them, or how much you're thankful for them, more often than not, it's returned. So for me, I think how to practice it is I have to practice that no matter what happens in my life, I'm going to be okay. Even if I lose my job, my relationship, or my health, or what have you, all the things I cherish, that everything's going to be fine. Of course, it's going to be challenged. It's going to be devastating. Life has its turmoil, but just trusting in the fact that, back to presence, like you brought up earlier, just being in every single day and trying to be more present in every moment of, I'm going to fill up for myself, and I'm going to do the best job I possibly can. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to continue to grow and always be improving. And I'm also going to be a really great support system for this person, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship. And I'm going to show up, and they should respect and love and reciprocate. But then it kind of comes back to that same question we have of, where's the fine line? Where do you pull the plug if you've been giving for weeks or months or years and there is no reciprocity? You definitely have to have the own self-love, self-respect, and courage and strength to know when to cut ties with friendships or with relationships. And that can be really challenging. And I think it doesn't have to be in a super aggressive way. It doesn't have to be like, I'm breaking up with you as a friend or as a lover, like this is done. It could just be more space, or filling up your life, creating more space for yourself to experience other relationships or other friendships.
And it could be really peaceful as well. It doesn't have to be like dramatic.
Yeah.
It could be just real soft. Just a soft goodbye and maybe it's not something that you really take notice of so like a hard line with it. But maybe as you're saying, like you fill up your life with things that really do bring joy to you, that the other thing that really isn't, whatever that is it's a soft goodbye. Like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, I actually haven't felt that way around that person or around that situation in a long time.
Yeah. That's nice. Practicing nonviolence with it.
Mm-hmm.
But really what I'm trying to say is to love yourself. I think that's the number one thing. Self-love, self-respect. I've been practicing this. I've been taking this self-love online course, and one of the homework exercises we have is called mirror work. And basically, it's really simple, but profound and really powerful. It's so amazing. I can't wait to go home and do it right now. Basically, mirror work is looking yourself in the mirror and speaking things to yourself that you need to hear, that are affirmations, that are empowering, that are going to fill you up. And the first exercise we did with this woman I've been working with is to look ourselves in the mirror in your eyes and don't break eye contact. You have to stay committed to yourself and you stay focused eye to eye with yourself. And out loud, verbally, start saying things to yourself that you wish other people would say to you, which is which is a really interesting practice for don't take things personally. Because so this whole practice is look yourself in the eye, say things to yourself you wish other people would say. So you start saying things like, I'm proud of you, you're doing great, I love you, you're amazing, you're beautiful, so on and so forth. And when I was doing this, and I've continued doing it, like even if it's just a little pep talk, look myself in the eye in the middle of the day and say something positive. And it's a really nice refresher. But if you can do this for an uninterrupted 2 to 5 minutes, it can be really powerful. The first time I did it, I was crying, really emotional. Wow. And it's interesting, I think, relating it to don't take things personally, because doing this one specific exercise where I'm saying things to myself that I wish other people would say, I'm realizing I don't need other people to say those things to me. I'm the one that has to say them to me. I'm the one that has to say, I love you. I accept you. I'm proud of you. And that's what really matters most. Like our soul is craving that. And that's really, I think, the answer to this one.
Wow. That is beautiful. I can't wait to try that. I'm really excited about that, because it really is going back to, you have enough inside of you that you don't need to search for other people. And whatever is coming back to you or not coming back to you, it doesn't matter, because you already have what you need.
Absolutely. And trusting the universe to guide you where you're supposed to go, what lessons you need to learn in the moment.
Cool. Yes. Oh, I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, it's a powerful one.
I think all of you should try it too. And let us know how you feel about it. Let us know what happened.
Dust off your mirror, look yourself in the eye, and share some love.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Maddie.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
So I think to wrap up today, maybe we should just read something from the 4 agreements.
Beautiful.
Would you like to have the honor?
Okay. You're so sweet. Okay. The second agreement. From Don Miguel Ruiz's book, we have the summary of this agreement. It's a little poem. Don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Don't take anything personally. Very wise.
It really is.
And very powerful.
It sounds so easy and simple, but when you really put this into work and into your life, I think that there will be a huge shift that could be very profound. And as I said earlier, we're excited to hear about it. We're on social media. We are all about wanting to hear your feedback and how we can serve you and give you offerings that help you with your own life. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Patsy Springer. I'm honored and inspired to be near my colleague and one of my closest friends, Madeline Chen. from our hearts to yours. Namaste.
Namaste.